Hey everyone, it's Ryan from Rocky Mountain Cigar Show coming at you from the Smokin' Studios here at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. Thank you everyone for joining in tonight. We have an absolutely fantastic guest. We're going to be doing PCA insider stuff as best we can. And who knows? There may be even some goodies that we're going to throw in there. Tonight's guest is a good friend, somebody that I've reached out to for advice throughout my experience and has given me advice. And I was actually even able to help him out once with something as well. So, but we'll bring him on here in a quick second. Huge shout out to all the sponsors that make this show remotely possible. We've got BAMP Cigars, ROCF Cigars, Christoph Cigars, Karen Berger Cigars, Sagrado Cigars, New Air Humidors, McAuliffe Cigars, Big Sky Cigars, Cornell and Deal Pipe Tobacco, and we'll have something fun to announce for next week, but we'll save that one. So if anybody is attending PCA and watching this right now, every one of these sponsors on this show are going to be at PCA. Please do me a big favor. If you know a lounge that you go to regularly that does not have any of these cigars from the sponsors in it, please go to that lounge owner that is attending and ask them to look up these sponsors. It really, really helps them out. And the more we can get great cigars out there, the better we all are. So, again, just some really quick show maintenance stuff. We sold out of our very big, or I think big for me, second annual Rocky Mountain Cigar Night. Yes, we sold 100 tickets and I only had to do one event. I can't believe it. 100 tickets. Last year we only sold 65, and this year we're at 100. We're hoping to give well over $10,000 to Shadow Warriors Project. If you are in the Colorado area and would like to support that event in some way, there is several cigar lounges that are supporting our event. Please use whatever money you would have picked up that ticket and buy cigars. It's Casbar, Smoking Cave Cigar Lounge, Edwards Cigar Shop, and Devon's Cigar Bar. So definitely say big thank you to them. Go in there and buy some cigars. So let's see here. Oh, look at this. Look at it. We got double the Tim tonight. We got Tobacco Media. We've got Bruce in the house and Cigar Show Tim. So let's go ahead and bring on Cigar Show Tim. Tim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. And just for those out there that are watching that may not know who you are, it doesn't make sense. But please introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of a background in case somebody is seeing you for the first time and would like to watch some of your content.
Perfect. Well, my name is Tim Long. I go by Cigar Show Tim because there are a couple other Tims in the industry, and I needed to find a way to differentiate myself. I started doing content back about 5 years ago now. In fact, it's 5 years ago this month with a Instagram channel, and then which became a YouTube channel called Dad Smoking Cigars. Did that for just shy of 2 years, and then branched out on my own during COVID. It was just over 3 years ago now, so it was June of 2020 when I branched out on my own. And I've had my own channel since then. Tobacco Talk Media is the umbrella that it all falls under. And I review cigars a couple times a week. We'll do accessories. We'll give almost like an editorial kind of video from time to time, and just create content that people seem to enjoy watching and seem to enjoy learning from. And then the greatest thing that I get to do is just be part of the industry, be part of the community of people that enjoy cigars, enjoy the benefits of it. The greatest equalizer there is on earth is a cigar between two people sitting down and enjoying them. But I've made a lot of friends in the industry, and I don't say that as any kind of a bragging thing, but I'm really blessed to know some of the people that I do in the industry, and whether it's a manufacturer, a brand owner, or somebody that's putting out content. It's a lot of fun to just have that network established, and I'm looking forward to PCA because I'm going to be able to see and meet people that I've only seen, like you, Ryan, that I've only seen through a computer screen, and be able to meet them in person. And I mean, people like Bob the Cigar Guy in Chief, and countless others that I haven't met yet, that I'm gonna be able to meet and hang out with, and so it'll be cool. And then I get to see some old friends that I've known for a few years now, and just have a good time. So yeah, I create content, plain and simple. I guess that's, if you want the simple short answer. I create content, and it's about cigars.
Yeah, but let's also be honest. You've helped my ass quite a bit. So you're also somebody that's always willing to help somebody. And for somebody that's had the success inside the cigar world that you have in the media, the fact that you were ever even willing to answer my phone call or message was just, because technically, I guess you would say, even though I don't consider us competition, whatever, with each other, but like, it's just always nice. You and Kevin were two of the few in the very, very beginning that I reached out to, and you guys were always so kind and willing to help me out. And in turn, I helped you out with a very
that is true.
process.
The camera that I am using, we both own, and I love how quick that thing focuses. It drives Kevin nuts. He's like, how do you get a camera lens that focuses that fast? Yes, we both have the Nikon Z50 or Z50, depending on which way you pronounce it and whether you're from Canada or America. And I was looking for a way to use it as my camera for recording all of my content. And you sent me an instant message that said, you won't believe what I found. And you were like, I may buy it, I'm not sure. And I said, screw it, I'm going to buy it. And if I'm out $50 or $40, whatever it was, I'm out the money. But if it works, then I've hit the jackpot. And I remember sending you the message, it works, go get yours.
I was letting you test it out first.
Hey, you know what? I was totally fine with that. But yeah, so you have helped me out by being able to use the camera. And I'll be honest, and you probably get this as well. I have people that tell me that the composition of what they see and what I record is some of the most clear video footage, you can't call it footage anymore because it's all digital, but some of the most clear video that gets recorded and streamed and all of that. And I'm sure you get the same thing. And it's because you have to have quality equipment, and this camera does a lot of that.
No, absolutely. And what I would kind of like to start before we get into like the PCA stuff is, because I know you get asked this question quite a bit. I get asked this question quite a bit, and I don't have half of the shit that you have. So I don't even want to know what all your toys cost, because remember, men don't stop playing with toys. Our toys just get more expensive.
Yep.
So when somebody tells me, like I like one of my lounge owner friends, they're like, oh, dude, I'd like to start like a little YouTube show, maybe do something on the weekends. I look at them and go $2,500. And they're like, what? I said, $2,500. That's your buy-in. $1,000 for a camera, maybe switcher. You need a dedicated computer, might need a better internet system. So you're $2,000 to $2,500 started. So when somebody says, Tim, I want to do X to get in, what is your response?
The question is either what does it take to get started, or how much have you invested in it? I usually don't share the specific number of how much has been invested in it, partly because I just don't remember all of it. But I can tell you that I have invested, including building my studio with all of the camera, computer, everything that I have. I mean, I'm probably getting close to about the $10,000 range over the years. But it's all been worth it, and it wasn't all at one time. But when I get asked, so what does it take to get started? Usually what I tell them is, if they can hear you clearly and you're blurry, you'll lose them. If they can see you clearly and they can hear you for the most part, I said that backwards. If they can hear you clearly and maybe you're not as clear, they'll stay because they can understand what you're saying. But if they can't hear you and all they can do is see you clearly, then you'll lose them, because people will stick around. It's like, a radio essentially, or streaming music. If they can hear what you're saying and the picture isn't the most perfectly clear, then they'll stick around because they're at least getting good quality content and they can understand it.
Sure.
So my recommendation to them is make sure you can be heard clearly. And look, and I've caught, some flack over the last couple of years for a couple of videos that I've put out about gear and taking pride in what you do and what you put out there. Technology has come so far now that people using an iPhone without a microphone in a certain environment can work very, very well.
Oh, yeah, that's how I started.
Yes. And so you don't need a lot of money or equipment to get started. Just make sure that wherever you are recording content is in a place that you aren't an echo chamber. And if you are, work towards improving that. I mean, you can go back to the beginning of my channel and you can see that I'm sitting out on a patio at I'm at my old studio. Then I'm on a patio at my in-laws. Then I'm outside of my backyard with just framing of the studio and the whole process. So I didn't have it perfect from the start either, but I learned what I wanted to do and what wasn't working. And then I just pivoted and adjusted. But I tell them, make sure you can be heard clearly. And then after that, focus on the picture.
Well, that was actually some of the advice that you gave me, which is why I started with just my iPad. And then you were like, you kind of sound bad, tinny, like your volume, you said your mids or whatever are off. And so then I went with a lapel. That was good, but it picked up everything. And then my beard constantly scratched against it. And so I went with headphones. That got too loud because I realized that this microphone over here is not all made the same. There's so much to do and think about when people go to get into this. But enough of that stuff. I'm going to throw up here our first segment of the night, which is sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, and that is, what are you smoking tonight? Tim, I will let you go first.
So I'm going to one of my old faithful trusty cigars. It is the first boutique brand that I got to know personally in the industry when I got involved and got connected with one of my dear brothers, cigar mechanic Brandon Wells, who's a broker. And I am enjoying the Coraline Habano from Casa Cuevas tonight. And it is a go-to for me. I mean, you can see, I won't go reviewer mode, but the burn, construction, everything on this, they are rock solid and the flavor is just incredible. And I love them. You could blindfold me and give me 5 different Habanos and put this one in there and I'll tell you which one it is because I just know it that well.
Well, your palate's also very, very well defined.
Well, thank you.
Tonight, I'm actually smoking, from what I remember reading, is now discontinued, the Todos Las Dias. I am correct with that, right? This is being removed.
I believe it is for some of the new stuff that he's releasing.
Yes, that's what I thought. This was the one that's going away. And I am also pairing it with the Axe and the Oak. This is their Moonshine or Hillshine aged in Lafroig barrels.
Ooh.
Yeah, it screws with your senses. Because you're like, it's whiskey, but I get scotch. It's whiskey, though, but it tastes like scotch, kind of. So it's good. It's really good.
That's awesome.
So, Tim, let's kind of just barrel right in here and let's start talking PCA.
Okay.
You're heading out there. You may leave whenever, but you'll be there this weekend.
Yep.
And start by telling us, what are you expecting on walking into? What kind of environment? And what is something from last year that you hope will be at this year, in the sense of like the excitement?
Okay. So I'll start at the beginning. So heading out there, what am I expecting when I get there? There's always just this sort of infectious buzz to just get started, even though everybody's smoking cigars the entire time you're hanging out. And I'll throw this out there now. Cigar enthusiasts that go, I had a lot of cigars today. I had 3. That's usually how many I have on the drive just to Vegas. And usually there's anywhere between, I usually stop counting, honestly, after about 8 cigars, which is usually right around the end of lunchtime, to just after lunchtime. But yeah, I mean, it's a 12 to 15, however many after that cigar kind of day, every single day. But there's just this infectious buzz to get back together. It's even though it's every 6 months that there's a big trade show, with PCA, there's a different buzz because there are more manufacturers and brand owners there. And this is the show that everybody comes to really release what they've been working on for the last year. Yeah, there's releases at TPE each year, but PCA, especially this year, you mentioned what am I looking forward to this year? There were many manufacturers that did not have anything to release intentionally at TPE. They had some fresh packs or some new packaging or new branding or different things like that that are releasing new cigars at PCA this year that I'm really looking forward to. There is just new cigar after new cigar after new cigar. And it's always fun to just walk up to people. I mean, I have the fortune of knowing, some different manufacturers and brand owners and things like that. But there are some that I have never met before. And, whether it's Rick Rodriguez with West Tampa Tobacco Company, I mean, his new red is just incredible. And Rick Rodriguez, looking forward to meeting up with him. There's Hoot and Young, a cigar brand that's out there that I'm looking forward to meeting and interviewing. And so for me, I'm looking forward to the new cigars that are out there, but I'm also looking forward to getting introduced to new people in the industry. I didn't meet Don Doroteo and their team. I know Garrett Robinson well. He's a good friend of mine, but I didn't go past their booth at TPE, but they've got new stuff releasing at PCA. And so I'm going to be going over there and talking with them. And so I'm looking forward to all the different things that come out of PCA. The one thing that I wish, and I know you didn't necessarily ask it this way, but one of the things that I wish will be done a little bit better maybe than last year's PCA is last year PCA is when they unveiled the collaboration, or the shared box, I should say, between Fuente and Padron. And the way that was handled and done, in my opinion, and this is 2 decades of event management experience, so it's a very jaded perspective. It was very anticlimactic and not very conducive to everybody knowing what's going on. And so hopefully if there's anything big like that going on, then it's handled a little bit more precisely. But there's just a ton of stuff that's coming out this year that, I heard people last year that said, oh, it's my first trade show ever. I'm going to walk the whole floor on the first day. And you see them at the end of day one. And they're like, okay, I finished 2 rows and there's a whole lot more rows left. And then you see them at the end of day 2 and they're like, I really got to get my butt in gear because I'm not even halfway through the show and the show is halfway done. And so it is a lot bigger than people think it is. And it's a lot more of an interactive kind of environment, but it is very much more business minded. And it's like, I'll liken it to the auto industry because I'm a car guy. You can go to a car show, a community car show with a bunch of hot rods and a bunch of, muscle cars, classic cars, and you can sit and you can talk with the owner of that car and they'll tell you all about it and how they built it. Or you can go to something like the LA Auto Show and it's very down to business. Here's our new vehicles. Here's what we're releasing. Here's what all the specs are on it. PCA is like the LA Auto Show when it comes to trade shows. It is much more business focused. It doesn't mean that there's no relationship building taking place, but it's much more business focused, getting the big orders for the year. Everybody's talking up, knowing that it's all going to be delivered, in early fall and all those different things. So it's a very different environment and tone than TPE is. TPE is much more social, relaxed. Yeah, you're still writing orders. You're still doing all of that. But PCA is much more of the grinded out. I mean, literally 20-hour days. You take a 3.5-hour nap each night/morning, and you get up and you do it all over again the next day, and you love every single bit of it.
Well, it sounds like you have a good time, or it sounds like you enjoy it. So, what was the highlight of the PCA for you last year?
Ooh, highlight of PCA for me last year. I don't know that I have one specific highlight. It was my first time at PCA last year, so it was my first time being at that trade show. And I would say probably the highlight of all of it was realizing the network that was established and the fact that I had manufacturers reach out to me. Tim, are you coming by? Tim, I want to talk to you about our new stuff. That was just really validating. And not that I need that validation to continue doing what I do and creating content, but it's nice to know that as much as I respect a brand owner and manufacturer for what they do for the industry, they mutually respect what I do and what you do as well, Ryan, for the industry, because we are the voices, we are the vehicle with which the information gets put out there. And having that recognition of the media being an important part and me being part of media was really cool.
Yeah, I would love to be able to get out there. I asked this year, last year, you going out, you go, it's just so expensive to get out there in Vegas. And, So speaking of that, it's obviously going to be at Vegas next year. What
Yes,
is
last year of the
your
contract.
and but I heard it was only because they're redoing one of the facilities in Vegas where it's being held at or something,
That
and
may be.
it's going to New Orleans the year after
Yeah, I've
next.
heard New Orleans next, and then they're trying to do Miami, but Miami, this is again the event hospitality side of my brain. Miami doesn't have enough hotel space and all of that. Even if it's not Miami, areas in Florida don't have enough hotel space unless you're going to go to like Orlando because of Disney World or things like that. There isn't enough hotel space and meeting places and all of that to house a trade show like PCA with all of the extra vehicle traffic and traveling. So as much as it would be nice for all of the brand owners and manufacturers to have it in their backyard in Florida, I don't see it going there. But yeah, from my understanding, next year is Vegas again, and then we've got New Orleans in 25.
So as you go in there, obviously you probably have the show map, and knowing you probably have like days and time frames that you're going to hit each aisle, and 10 minutes with this one, 2 minutes with that one. Just because you're planned out, I would just be sitting there spinning in the circle, hoping.
Where do I go?
So as you go in, what is your plan of attack for a show like this? Especially since the ooh and ah has kind of dwindled from you not being, or this not being your first time.
Sure. My plan of attack is usually I communicate with a number of different manufacturers, and some of them are very good. For instance, I'll give a shout out to Luciano Cigars. They're intentional about sending out an email to the media or people that are on their media list, I should say. Not that it's exclusive, but sending it out to people that they know are going to be there and say, book a time with us. Here's the calendar. Plug yourself in. And so there are some brands that do that, which make it very, very easy and seamless. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get that exact time slot. You can show up and somebody else was 10 minutes, over their time, and you just sort of go with the flow because you know that they should have their fair time, just like I'm going to get my fair time. And then there are others where you just show up when it's not as busy. Like last year, I sat down with Steve Saka on, I think it was Sunday morning, and the show hadn't opened up yet. And we just sat in his booth on a couch, and I hit record, and we just sat and shot the breeze for, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes about cigars and different things. And so there are things like that happen that are just sort of on the fly. You go, okay, I'm going to fit this in, and this is when it makes sense. So I do a little bit of shooting from the hip and a little bit of, sorry, my screen decided to go dark for a second.
Story time.
Yeah, right. Ooh. And then there's times where, it's very methodically scheduled out and planned out. There are certain times where I just know that I need to be at a certain booth, because if I wait till after a half an hour after the show opens up and everything's going on, that it's going to be too busy for the rest of the day. Last year talking with Eric Espinoza, I did it intentionally before the show opened up because I knew after that, because Knuckle Sandwich had just come out, because of all the different things that were going on, that I needed to be intentional and get it early. So I talked with Jack Tarano, who's a friend of mine, and he said, yeah, let's get you in. No problem. We'll get you taken care of. So it's a little bit of both. So it's scheduling some of it, and the other time it's wandering around, and also making sure I take time to take in the show, to take in what's going on, to take in brands and manufacturers that I haven't seen in a couple years or talked with in a couple years. And just doing the sort of, for lack of a better term, PR tour, and just saying hi to people again.
Yeah, that's I'm looking forward to going. I went to TGS this year for the first time, the Great Smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And next year I'll be able to kind of take it in a little bit more. This year it was just like overwhelming. It was just absolutely fantastic. So I'm sure first year PCA will be kind of chicken with the head cut off, just trying to survive and say hi to everybody, but then plan it out a little bit more. So let's kind of get into some of the news now.
Okay.
For those of you that have been paying attention, and as well as can see below Tim's name, you can go to tobaccotalkmedia.com. It's a news site. He's got a blog. He's got all of his videos up there. So we're going to be kind of going through some of the stuff on the website that's been posted over the last several weeks, and kind of talking some specifics into the PCA stuff. And I want to start with Founders, because I know that you're closely affiliated with them, and would like to kind of start there. I know they have what is it?
They're doing a complete overhaul essentially, and that's not personnel. So what they're doing is they've worked with, and I'm not going to take credit for it because in the industry, you just get put in places at the right time to introduce people together, and it becomes a really great relationship. I was fortunate enough at TPE, not this year, but the one before, when they came and just checked it out to see what it was like because they wanted to be a vendor the following year, an exhibitor the following year. Since I've got a really good relationship with Luis Cuevas Jr. of Casa Cuevas Cigars, they said, could you introduce us to somebody that would be able to understand what we're like as a startup? So I walked him over to Luis Cuevas and I said, hey, if you don't have time, tell me no. And Luis would tell me no if he didn't have time. But I've got a couple of guys here, a new brand, and they just want to pick your brain for a few minutes. You tell them when your time's up, no big deal. Well, that really birthed a really, really cool relationship between Casa Cuevas Cigars and Founder Cigars. And at PCA last year, Founders approached Casa Cuevas and said, we would really like to explore the idea of having your factory produce our cigars. If that means reblending them, then we reblend them. But we'd really like to see about what that would look like and how to do that. So over the period of the last year, they went down to the Dominican Republic. Angelo, who's one of the co-founders, went down there. Brian is actually on orders right now. So he's with the Air Force. He has been for 21 years. They went down and they have reblended all of their blends with the exception of the Candela. So the Connecticut Habano Maduro and the dual wrap, their barber pole, have all been reblended and are all being produced by the Tabacalera Las Lavas, or Las Lavas Tabacalera, whichever way you pronounce it, factory, which is the Cuevas owned factory that has produced cigars for everybody from the Toronjo family to Gurkha to countless other big names and historic names in the industry. So Founders is releasing all of these new blends, re-releasing them, and then Humberto Arias, who is with Cigar Package Designs, is a good friend of mine as well. And I said, if you want to redo your banding and you want to really have it all be a brand new, fresh pop, you've really got to talk to Humberto. And so they did. And the new bands that they have, I mean, he just knocked it out of the park. And so they're unveiling their 4 new blends, but 5 new branding items. Their barber pole used to be a Habano Connecticut barber pole. It's now a Maduro Connecticut barber pole. And they have some absolute incredible blends now. Not that they had terrible ones, but the tobacco that they can have access to and what they use when blending. Founders is releasing all of their new blends, with Casa Cuevas being the manufacturer now. And what is going to be released at PCA here is absolutely incredible.
Well, I agree. I think they look very, very nice. I like the redo. I think they're classy looking, and I like the bust, the presidential bust. I think that's really slick. They look really nice.
Yep.
No, very, very nice. So let's see here.
And I've got a relationship with them. I mean, you mentioned it, but I've got a relationship with them. I was one of the first content creators that, I don't remember if I reached out to them or they reached out to me, and just said, hey, I review cigars. If you ever want to send me some, I'd love to check them out for you. They sent me some, and it just built this relationship where, you know, by coincidence, they were at TPE when I was there, and the relationship developed even more to the point now where I support them a lot with their public relations, writing press releases, getting it out to the media, doing things like that. And then I also am their rep for California here. And people might go, oh, so that's why you're partial to them. Yeah, I like Founders. I wouldn't rep somebody that I don't believe in. And they went from having good cigars to having amazing cigars. So I do have an established relationship with them, but it is one that still allows me to be unbiased when it comes to reviewing cigars, because I review cigars and they know that is completely separate from what I do to support them.
No, and that totally makes sense. And that's a fine line you have to make sure that you cross when it comes to that. So let's move on. You had mentioned Hoot and Young, and you had said that this was one of the things that you were looking forward to. Now, why is this one of the things that you're looking forward to?
So that specific one that you have there, Operation Gothic Serpent, That is an actual military operation that took place. Hoot and Young, the two people that run that brand, that own it, wanted to pay tribute to the 30th anniversary of Operation Gothic Serpent, which was one of the operations featured in the movie Black Hawk Down. And so just because of the story, and anybody that's watched me for any amount of time, I love backstories to cigars. I love that there is meaning and, okay, this is why, or it was named this way because of someone's mom or grandmother that passed or whatever it is, or a historical figure. I love talking about cigars that have any kind of significance or a backstory to them. And so I'm looking forward to meeting the guys from Hoot and Young and talking with them and checking out their new cigars. There's actually 2 that are being released. They've got this Operation Gothic Serpent, and then which is considered the 30th because it's the 30th anniversary of that operation. And then they've got another one they're releasing as well. But they just have a really cool looking box design, to be completely transparent. It looks like granite stone or something, and it's just very appealing.
No, it looks very, very nice. How long has Hoot and Young been around in total?
You know, that I don't know. Oh, and it says 25th anniversary. I was wrong. I thought it was 30th. But so the 2 different ones. Oh, one's 25 anniversary, 25th, one's 30th. But anyways, I don't know. I want to say for a couple years they've been around. I believe they were at either TPE or PCA last year, but I don't off the top of my head know exactly how long they've been around. But they've got some really great people in their corner. I mean, like it says there in the press release, they've got a former blender from Davidoff that is working with them on their cigars. And when you've got somebody of that caliber that says, yeah, I'll jump onto your team and I'll blend for you, you've got to have some pretty special stuff coming out.
No, I totally agree. I've never had them.
And neither have I.
I've heard of them. I've heard good things. I've never had them.
Oh, there you go. Daniel Flores in the comment. I love Hoot and Young 15-year barrel proof. Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah, I have not had them yet. So definitely going to have to try to find a grab some. But everybody, this is the kind of content you can grab if you go to Tobacco Talk Media. It's simple content. It's laid out very easily, incredibly navigatable, and let's be honest, we all read stuff on the toilet. This is like perfect. Jump on, close the door, turn the fan on, and have some time to yourself or in between meetings and stuff. I keep this page up and read it. So let's move on to the why.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to this one. The Y Panda. So Luciano has done cigars for different people in the industry. He just partnered with the Daily Cigarin, and that cigar is coming out at PCA. And then there's this one here, Y Panda. And I'm looking forward to this one because the portfolio for Luciano does not really have a lighter wrapped cigar in it. And so this is going to be really cool, even though it's not a Luciano cigar, it's a different brand under them. I'm looking forward to checking this one out because I am definitely the Connecticut Habano cigar enthusiast. And with the blend on this one, I'm really looking forward to it. What's up, Kevin? Yeah, Panda, you say? It sounds like a familiar name. Trash Panda, maybe. But I'm looking forward to this one and checking it out. And I mean, with what it sounds like this cigar has in the blend, and I don't remember off the top of my head, it's obviously there in the press release. It just sounds absolutely delicious. The band is classy, it pops, it stands out. The price point on them is not crazy whatsoever. And you know, I mean, they've got what sounds like a really, really delicious cigar that's coming out. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out. And Luciano is a brand that he's become a close friend. He's become a close friend of mine, and we talked throughout the year, and I love supporting him. It's not a bias towards him, but I definitely love supporting him, and he allows me to continue doing that. And so, you know, that's what I do.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with anything he makes, in my opinion.
Oh no,
he's very, very, very good.
Yep.
So as we roll down in here, what do you know? What can we find out a little bit about the Sinistro PCA release for the Mr. Series?
So Sinistro, James is a good buddy of mine. James and Solomon both are great guys. And the Mr. Desflorado is a line extension to the Mr. Series. So the Mr. Red, the Mr. White, all those different ones of Mr. Candela, all the different ones that they have. What's going on, Matt? Yes, I will definitely see you there.
Thanks for watching, Matt.
Absolutely. This one is obviously a new extension for them. And James is really good, even though he lives typically in the medium to full bodied, not strength, but full bodied range with palate, with his blends. This one seems really intriguing to me because of the blend that's in it and how he's done it, and how there's some really special information about the tobacco that is being used in it, that was sourced for it, and all of that. So I'm looking forward to checking out this one. I love what James and Coleman, Coleman are putting out and what they do. And so I'm looking forward to checking this one out and reviewing it. And it's classy looking. It fits right in with their branding. And they just do a good job every time. I mean, Kevin can vouch obviously for what Sinistro does and what James does, because he's obviously utilized them and had relationships with them, and it still does.
Absolutely. Sinistro is another good, solid brand of cigars. I haven't had one that I've particularly not been a fan of, or at least not been willing to smoke again. Innocent.
What's up,
McGuire.
Innocent? What's going on, brother?
So let's move on. A getting close to the end of an era for Espinosa. They've got one more release in their 6 Providences release. This is the 5th one coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Are you excited about this?
I am. And these cigars typically are on the more spicy, fuller end. I remember when I saw Jack at TPE last year, the one that they released last year. I don't remember the initials on it. They change every year. They've got, obviously significance for the 6 provinces. But the one that they are releasing, this one is the 5th of the 6 provinces. So they've only got 1 year left. It's a ceramic jar. It's got 20 cigars in it. It's got beautiful coloring on it, and just represents something that would be found down in that province, from what it sounds like. And I'm looking forward to checking this cigar out, because I love what Espinosa does. I love what they put out. I mean, if you look at my channel, for anybody that hasn't checked out my YouTube channel yet, I review a lot of Espinosa stuff because I like it. I don't like everything they put out, but I do like what they have been coming out with recently. I mean, the Warhead 9 that just dropped not too long ago, I did a review on, and did a review on that, and you can go and check that one out for my take on it. But this one here is interesting. I remember when I saw Jack and he gave me the one which would have been the 5th province last year that they released, I believe, at TPE. And he smoked it, he said, in the morning one time, and it just completely knocked him back. He did not expect it to be as strong as it was. And he was like, I had to put it down. I couldn't finish it. I went back to it later after I ate, and I was good, but it knocked me back. And so these are usually on the stronger end of cigars. And Eric loves Habanos. He loves spice. He loves rich flavors. He loves all of that. And a lot of the ones in the Las Seis Provincias line have been that way.
Yeah, see, you're ballsy. I don't even attempt to say it. I've actually found out, if I can make out like the English version of the word Providences, I'm just going to say that.
Sure.
I mean, I am just the worst when it comes. So how did you say that?
Las Seis Provincias.
There you go. All right. So there's that one. And then one that I am looking forward to, that I'm curious if you are as well, is the new Crown Head release.
Yes. So Crown Heads is actually releasing a few different cigars, and under the umbrella of Crowned Heads with Osgener Family Cigars, they're releasing quite a few cigars at the show. The La Vereda is a cigar that is coming out that, Crown Heads, John Huber is very good at packaging things in a way that makes them catch your eye. And that's exactly what he's done with this, from the footband. And props to John for putting something on the footband as opposed to just having it be a ribbon and nothing else, so you don't know which one you're smoking. So I appreciate that about this release. But yeah, there you go, Kevin, all about the Habano. But with this one releasing here, it's another core line that they're releasing. It's not a line extension. It's not for somebody else. It is It is a new core line that they're releasing, and so I'm looking forward to talking to John or Miguel Shadell, who's a buddy of mine as well, and just learning more about this, getting to check it out, all of that. So they're releasing this. They've got their Mule Kick 4 kicks, and they've got a number of different cigars that are all being released. Osgener Family Cigars, Tim Osgener, obviously his dad, Kano, who is the founder of CAO, was his initials, is under the Crown Heads umbrella, so that Mike Conder, John Huber, and Tim Osgener are back under the same umbrella as of a year ago. And with the Aramis that is being released at PCA that I smoked, and that review should be coming up in the next few days here, there's a lot of activity that's going to be taking place at the Crown Heads booth.
Well, I love Crown Heads, but I just got to say, the one thing that kind of turns me off about this cigar, and I'm going to buy one, right? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to. I'm only going to buy one. They're not cheap. This is coming in at an $18.50 price range for the 5 3/8 by 50, so it would be they're a little bit bigger than a Robusto.
Which means in California, for me, it's like a $22 cigar.
Yeah, and all the way up to almost $22 for their 6 1/4 by 56. My guess that would be a Grand Toro size. I mean, that's expensive, right?
It is, and it's tobacco. If I'm not mistaken, there's some limitation on the quantity of the tobacco for it. And Kevin, I see John. Oh, thank you. I must have mispronounced it. Thinking because it's spelled Cano. Is how his name is spelled. But yes, thank you, Kevin, for reminding me of that. Yes, absolutely. Kevin, I will tell John you said hello. And then Kevin jumping in with the input on the volume,
right?
And the audio,
always
to two guys that are always focused on that. But from my understanding, there's some limitations. I mean, they have enough tobacco to do this for years, or they wouldn't have made it a core line. But there's some special, something special about the cigar and the blend, if I'm not mistaken, that puts it at that premium price point for them. And Crown Heads, they're doing everything at the show. Last year, if I were to give a booth of the year for design, Crown Heads would have taken it. They were absolutely, in fact, I think I said that on my PCA recap. They are doing everything from the more budget friendly price point with the fresh pack of the Juarez, introducing a new size that is specific just to that fresh pack, and called the Ferdinand. And so they're going to have everything from the entry level Juarez, which is a phenomenal cigar, all the way up through their higher end stuff. So they've got the full spectrum there at the show.
Well, I like I said, I will buy this, but I will only be buying one, and my wife probably won't let me buy more than one. But I mean, my gosh, $20 for a cigar, that's a good chunk of change. But my experience is Crown Heads has never let me down for their price range, period.
Yep.
So I want to kind of also talk about here, because I know these guys as well. And let's talk a little ATL. What do they got putting out? I know they're working with Luciano on this one as well.
Yeah, so Luciano does all the manufacturing in his factory, and has ATL under the umbrella. And Leroy is a great guy, the owner of ATL Cigar Co. And they're doing line extensions, so they're adding different vitolas to the black, to the magic, to a couple different ones. And what they're putting out, there's the magic right there. What they are putting out, if you have not had the ATL cigars, they are absolutely delicious. And the line extensions and what they're putting out, I am really, really looking forward to. The Magic is actually one that's in my travel herf to take with me that I'm going to smoke on the way out there when I drive to Vegas. It is a good, solid cigar and a great company and great person and people behind it, with Leroy and everybody else on the team. And it's coming out of Luciano's factory. You really can't go wrong with stuff coming out of Luciano's factory. There you go. Good trouble there. And there's another one that he released that was at TPE that he released called Wise Blood. Wise Blood is a phenomenal cigar. I did a review on that one and it blew my socks off.
So real quick,
Hmm.
for everybody that's watching, please jump over to Tobacco News Media. This is how simple it is to find the master sommelier cigar taster, Tim. Um, you go right here, you get right to his show, you go to news blog, you go right to your videos, and there's all of them.
Yeah, there's a whole
So
bunch of them there. I've got to update that. It's a little out of date, but it'll also take in my YouTube channel, so you can do that as well.
So yeah, definitely check him out. Tim's got all the brand new cigars. And if he doesn't smoke one that you want to see the review, I'm sure you could reach out to him
Yeah,
and he'll make it happen.
absolutely.
So moving down here, one of my favorite brands, one of my favorite people in the industry, Mickey Peg,
Hmm.
they are releasing their new cigar. What's
Yes.
your thoughts on All Saints? I think they're coming in Babe Ruth style, just knocking it out of the park.
So All Saints, I'm mixed on, to be completely honest with you. The first, I think it was their first blend. I'm blank on the name of it. That Mickey released, I was not a big fan of, honestly, at all. But this one, Solamente, sounds really good, and the fact that they're releasing it officially in November, I believe November 1st or 2nd is All Saints Day. And that's
Yep.
the day that they are supposed to already have them in the brick and mortars and available online, so that you can celebrate All Saints Day with this new cigar. I'm curious to check this one out, because I'm about 50-50 with the stuff that Mickey puts out. I think it's great what he's doing, and obviously, with where he was to where he is now, I think it's great for him. And that he's putting out what he wants to put out, and you can never argue that, because not every cigar is going to hit every palate. But I'm really curious to check out the Solamente and see what it's like and what it's about.
I think you were referring to the Saint Francis
No, there
or
was the
the
same
Dedication.
Dedication. Yes,
Okay.
the Dedication.
Yeah.
That one was not a big wow for me at all. I didn't care for it. But it doesn't mean that every cigar, in his portfolio, I'm not going to like. I'm still going to try it, of course. Got to give him a fair shot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to address this question here by Daniel Flores. He says, um, "May I ask what you think we should expect from Alec Bradley Company now that it's under new ownership of essentially General Scandinavian?
Hmm. Yeah,
Will it
STG.
affect their stand and presentation?"
So they are being lumped together with another manufacturer, and I am blanking on it right now. Um, and maybe
Warped,
it's
warped.
maybe Warped. Thank you. I knew it wasn't Matt Booth, but yeah, with Warped, and they're all being lumped under that umbrella and that name for STG. I don't think it's going to take away from anything from their presence there. Honestly, I think it's only going to increase traffic there, because people are going to want to talk to them and want to see what it's been like now that things have shaken out. Now that they've got, some of the, Alec Bradley, leadership team as part of leadership team for STG and all those different things. I don't think it's going to take away from their presence at all. Yeah, they're not going to have, a screaming booth on their own that says Alec Bradley, and I think they last year had maybe like a 10 by 20 or a 20 by 20, a good size, booth space. It's just going to be shared now. And you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because it does two things. Anybody wanting to go up and see Warped is going to get to see what's going on with AB, and anybody that wants to know what's going on with AB is going to get to see what's going on with Warped. So I think it's a win-win.
No, I do. I'm really curious to kind of get your insight into. So of course, right? You always get the people that the second the company was sold, they're like, "Oh, these cigars taste different." You're like, "You're an idiot. Those cigars have been made for a year." So now that it's under the new tutelage of STG, and now that they're obviously going to have to source tobacco from General, they're not going to necessarily potentially be able to source what they did beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
What are your concerns with the AB brand moving forward?
My hope is that they don't get lost in the mix under STG. My hope is that they can stay an independent name for a number of years to come, because of the legacy that they've had in the industry. Like Matt Booth. People still know Matt Booth as Matt Booth and Room 101. And Room 101 is still very much in demand, is still being pushed forward, and is still moving forward in great ways. I just hope that the legacy of Alec Bradley, when it was not under STG, continues for years to come. But, as in many industries, when somebody gets bought out or absorbed or, acquired, whatever label you want to put on it, there are some things that unfortunately fall to the wayside when it comes to exposure or marketing campaigns or things like that. I mean, we look 10, 15, 20 years from now, there's going to be an entire new demographic of cigar enthusiasts that never knew Alec Bradley was not under STG. And I just hope that the story of AB can continue on even that much further in the future.
No, and I agree. And I would go to where I would agree with everything you said, but I would take it a step farther. Once Alec and Bradley Rubin are gone, because I don't think they're going to be around. Like every company that buys around, they keep the strategic leadership for X number of years for the transfer over of power or the smooth succession to happen. Mm-hmm. I think once they leave, that is where we're really going to see what General is going to do.
Yeah, and I can liken it to Toronio Family Cigars. Jack's obviously a good friend of mine. Charlie passing within the last couple of years here. Toronio is very different than it was, and their cigars are very different than they were. And I just hope, Alec and Bradley and Room 101 and all of them don't go in that same way. I mean, Kevin, I think you're absolutely 100% on. I think Alan Rubin has spent so many years sourcing tobacco that nothing's going to change for at least 5 years. And I think you're right on. That's why I said for, hopefully 10 to 15 years from now, that legacy still exists. But only time will tell on that one. And, I hope it doesn't go the way that Toronio Family Cigars went.
Well, speaking of that, Kevin, I don't know if this is a thing, but just something that pops in my head. Technically, STG could take that tobacco from them, right? Potentially.
It depends on their agreement.
Their ownership.
It's their ownership. There are some agreements where they take the ability to sell it. They take the name of it. They take the namesake and all of that. But the blend is not to be changed at all. Yes, they can get lower quality tobacco and still make that blend. But it all depends on the agreement and the way that it was set up. And if it was set up that there cannot be a deviation from what was their normal production, then it will stay, or it will stay until the family is so far out of the picture that they decide they're able to make that change. Yeah, exactly, Kevin. I mean, 100%. There are so many people that have no idea, that it was Jack's family, that, his uncle and cousin and all those different people that were running Toronio Family Cigars all those years ago. They weren't even producing all of theirs. The Las Lavas Tabacaleras, the Cuevas factory, was producing a lot of the Toronio stuff. Yeah. And I mean, you look at some of the stuff that Toronio used to put out, their Exodus series. I mean, in my opinion, you cannot beat the Exodus series from Toronio Family Cigars. It doesn't exist anymore.
Well, before we move on, what, in your opinion, is the most successful buyout in the cigar industry? Because you do, and let me preface it by this. You see buyouts, and I see like the Camacho and stuff like that. I'm talking about like the smaller lines that weren't absorbed years and years ago. What's the most successful buyout, in your opinion, the last 15 years in the cigar world, where that cigar is good? And take the Camacho Triple Maduro. Mm-hmm. Everybody loved that cigar until it got bought out, and then that cigar returned the shit. So
yeah, nobody likes the Davidoff Camachos anymore. I mean, it's very widely known. So, Matt Booth made out really well. That was a really good one, and him allowed to stay on, or as part of the agreement to stay on and be the creative director and push that forward. It's too early for me to say about Alec and Bradley, just because it's so young of an agreement, and Room 101's been a year now. That I would say that it's probably Room 101 in my opinion, because it's you can't replace a Matt Booth. You can't change that. And he made out very, very well. But he's still involved in what's going on. When I talked with him at PCA, or excuse me, at TPE, and said, you know, what's it like? He goes, I have time to focus on other things that I want to focus on, whether it's jewelry, whether it's, you know,
Cars.
his cars, whether it's, you know, the spirits, whatever it may be. He's got time to do other things. But Room 101, at this point at least, has not changed at all, other than who owns it and who's, you know, truly at the helm of it. And so I would say probably Room 101 has made out the best in the last few years.
I think, well, it's also only Room 101 cigars. It's not his Room 101 brands. It's not the liquor and the jewelry. I personally think that Room 101 will probably go down as one of the more successful buyouts, specifically because it's Matt Booth, and you can never replace him. And in fact, when I actually was talking to him on the phone not too long ago, and I asked him kind of the same question, you know, how's your life changed? He goes, I get to get up at 8 instead of 6.
Yeah.
You know, just I get a little bit extra time in my life. But he's still out pumping it in. So I mean, good for him. And I think Room 101 will be a huge success for General as long as they don't curtail Matt. And yes, Abe DeBabna smoking invented the triple Maduro.
Yes, he did.
100%. Without Matt Booth, that whole thing would have died. Yeah. Maybe in 5 years he may not be needed, but I think Matt's going to be 80 years old with long hair, still going to shows and, you know, in a wheelchair at 90 doing shows. I don't think you'll ever get Matt fully out of it. It'll be interesting to see where Alec and Bradley, the brothers, end up going. But let's touch base here on a friend of mine. I'm sure you know Eric Bay.
Oh yes.
And they just released the Rosewood, which is made at another good friend of both of ours, Aganorsa. And so tell us a little bit about this. Why is this one special? Are you looking forward to it, or have you had it?
I have not had it. I will be honest. I was put on the hush hush, but talked with Eric off camera at TPE, and he said, you know, we've got some really special stuff that's coming out. One he did as a limited release cigar for a chain. I believe it's called Binny's. Yes. He told me that was going on. And then he told me about this, but obviously it was a hush hush thing. And I said, okay, so is it going to be a stronger cigar knowing what you like and where it's coming from? And he said, you know what? I wouldn't bet on that. So I'm curious to check this one out. I'm picturing this to be a little more on the savory sweet end of things and not so much on the darker, richer, fuller bodied end, but we'll see.
Do we get a breakdown in here? I didn't see one.
No, I don't believe the blend is in that press release. I don't think it was sent out. I think it was just the bundles of 20, you know, where it's coming from. Well, it does say that the fillers are from the DR, an MSA wrapper Ecuadorian binder. And see, that's where for me, I'm not 100% sure what it's going to be like, because Ecuadorian binder, it could be Viso, it could be Seco, it could be Ligero, it could be any of those, depending on the priming of the tobacco. If it's an Ecuadorian Habano, then I will probably fall in love with that cigar, because Ecuadorian Habano is my favorite tobacco leaf. And so that's why I'm curious to see about that. The MSA could make it a really nice sweet one.
Yes.
And with if it is a Habano, if it's an Ecuadorian Habano with that nuttiness, the caramel, a little bit of minerality in there, it's going to be a delicious cigar.
I love the gnarliness of this wrapper.
It just looks rustic.
It looks like it should be sold at like a Bass Pro. like it, you go up to a tree and just break it off.
Yep.
Like it, I love the ugly gnarly. That's one of the reasons I love about Connecticut broadleaf. I love that just it looks like it's ready for a fight all the time.
Yes.
And at $12.99, I mean, he's coming in right at the sweet spot. So I want to, because I know you do work with founders, and you also work with a lot of other cigar companies, and you're embedded in the industry. Where do you think a great price point for a boutique line is? And I'll tell you my opinion, and then you can tell me if my thought process is right or wrong.
Sure.
I think no more than a 10 count box.
Okay.
Because the most expensive real estate is the real estate in the home humidor. I actually had a cigar shop owner tell me that. He told me, he goes, my shop doesn't cost much. It's the home humidor that's the most expensive. And for the guy that only has 20 spaces, it's very expensive.
Yep.
So with that in mind, I think a boutique cigar between 8 and pushing it to 15 with a 10 count box is primarily the best sweet spot for it.
So for me, and I'm seeing more manufacturers do it. Founders is doing it with theirs. There are others that are doing it. Decades ago, the standard for a cigar box account was 25 cigars. It was a brick. It was 25. It was 5x5. And Founders with their new stuff is going to more of a bundle shaped cigar box, and others are doing that as well. But when it comes to entry point, brand new boutique, and Founders is still new, this is their second time exhibiting at PCA. I would say about the $10 to $12 when you're getting to the Toro size, so $8 to $9 Robusto. But I would say around the $10 to $12 price point. And I like the boutiques that come out with a 20 count box, because they believe in their product that much. Now, obviously, the product has to sell itself, but I like the idea of a anywhere between a 12 and 20 count box for brand new brands, so that they're taking up one single facing. But with so many going back to the original 25 count boxes, you can actually fit two of those bundle boxes in the space of one facing. And so, it's two facings for the price of one. And oh, there you go, Kevin. Yeah, of course you think so. Yep, green. But that's where I would put it. $10 to $12, and anywhere from a 12 count to a 20 count box, I think, is a really good entry point, because it shows that you're willing to do what the majority of cigar boxes are doing out there in terms of width. But it also shows when they go with a little bit larger count that they believe in the product enough, or they believe in the blend, or where it's coming from, or there's enough credibility behind them to sell it. But again, the cigars have to sell themselves.
So tell me if my thought process is wrong then. With this new world, with the recession, with everything costing more, that's where I'm kind of like, I would take a gamble on $100 bill box, $10 a stick, 10 cigars. But now you're talking 200. You're asking, in my opinion, a lot for a cigar box that I've never even had. Versus me being able to maybe get 2 10 count boxes from that brand for $200.
And here's why I like the 20 count. You're paying less per cigar for the box, so you're actually getting more cigar for your money. Yes, you're paying double the price essentially, but what that does on the manufacturing end is it allows them to actually get a little bit higher quality tobacco, knowing that they've only got to make half the boxes.
Okay, so you're coming at it from the cost of business aspect.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's an interesting way of, I never actually thought about it from the cost of the business side of it. Either way, I think $12.99 for Black Starlight is right in line with what the value I would put it as. And kudos to him. The 6x48 Corona is my favorite size, next to a Lancero. That's Espinosa's favorite size. We tried to get it called the Saka, because that's Saka's favorite size. So, or no, Saka was 6x46. So,
yeah.
But, as we go down here, I have no idea when I read this earlier, who is Tyler Jeffrey and why the hell is he working with Skip Martin? For those of you that don't know Skip Martin, oh my gosh, his brand just left me. Romacraft.
So I'll be honest, I was sitting at a doctor's appointment, and my email goes off with all the different press releases and everything. And I see this one, and I look and I go, I have never heard of Tyler Jeffrey, and I have no idea what cigar this is. And Tyler Jeffrey may be a name that is just, someone that's gone under a manufacturer name for a long time. I don't know. But but I don't know who Tyler Jeffrey is, but I don't know how they got my information. Probably my website, probably a media list. I have no clue.
Well, Skip's probably got
but,
it too.
And maybe Skip's got it, but it was an interesting blend on this, that every single tobacco leaf in there, from the wrapper to the binder to the fillers, is all Viso.
Seiko, yeah.
And so everything in there,
Viso, yes.
is all Viso. And so right there at the, that part of the plant, that priming, it was really interesting to me. Am I a big fan of the branding and the way that it looks and all of that? No, I'm not. But my job isn't to decide whether or not I think something looks pretty or not, or is appealing or not. My job is to help them get their information out there. And so that's exactly, of course, what I'm going to do. But I do want to stop by and introduce myself and check the cigar out and see what it's like. But it's got to be a startup that Skip obviously said, you know what, let me help you out with it. And for all I know, it's somebody that's worked for Skip for a number of years and they decided they wanted to put out their own cigar. I have no clue. But the fact that Skip is involved in it, it's probably going to be on the stronger end. Obviously, it's not Ligero, it's Viso. It's coming from that part of the plant, right there in the middle. But I'm curious about it. But I had never known anything about it, so I want to go by and talk to him.
Well, it's a funny play on the whole me so horny, you know. But I will say, the name of it wouldn't deter me, and I don't know about you, but this may deter people of thinking that this is a gimmick with the name Viso Horny.
Yep.
And I will say it's probably a Robusto because it's Viso.
And the size there makes it look like it's Robusto. I would say it's probably not a 5x50, but a 5x52. And I don't know if it said in there the specific size of the Vitola, or if it even said the Vitola. But based on looking at it, I would say that it's probably a Robusto 5x52. It may even be a 54, but I would go 52. I wouldn't go 50. I
would agree. And this is kind of it's a family show, Tim. Let's
there you go.
There.
Absolutely, Ryan.
So no, 4x52 petite Robusto.
Okay, so I was right on the 52.
I was going to say, I thought it said
the
the size when I looked through this earlier. I mean, you see a name that says Viso Horny, but it says Viso Horny. It kind of stands out. You definitely want to read the article.
Yep.
Now I'm also curious. So you have two articles here. By the way, I'm loving going through your website, dude. This is awesome. We've got to make this like a segment on the show. Tim's news corner or something.
I would love it.
But we have, Knuckle Sandwich Robusto release, and then you see down here Espinosa set to release a reblended Knuckle Sandwich. What is going on with the Knuckle Sandwich?
So the Knuckle Sandwich last year at PCA, they had the first iteration of the Chef Special, and it's a Figurado, and I actually still have it here in my humidor. I got it from Hector at the show, and he said, "Yeah, hey, check this out." I just haven't checked it out yet, obviously, and so this is just the newest reblending of it for another year is what the Chef Special is. And it's separate from all of the core line stuff of the core line Connecticut, Habano, and Maduro that are out there. And so that's what this one is. Limited production, 1,500 boxes of 10. And it's, I believe, the same quantity that they did last year. Last year, It was a Connecticut wrapper. And so this year, obviously, you can tell it's a different wrapper with it being darker there. But the other Espinosa story that's out there are actually three different press releases that have come out from Espinosa for the show. One of them is this one, the Chef Special reblend. The second one is as Eric Espinosa calls it, the grab and go, which is going to be at the very top. And this one is a sampler pack. So you get a 3-pack of the Knuckle Sandwich core line. You get one of each of the Connecticut, Habano, and Maduro. And it's intended to be a simple grab and go, get yourself familiar and acclimated to the blends and to that line. And it makes it really easy for $30.
$30?
Yep.
That's a steal.
And I can tell you, Well, I love all of them. The Kinetic could be a daily smoker for me. The
Same
Habano and the
here.
Maduro are phenomenal.
Yes.
Of all of well, between the Habano and the Maduro, I like the Habano better, but I'm more of a Habano guy. And the Connecticut is just amazing. It's got a little bit of spice in there. It's not a traditional Connecticut. It's not overpowering, but it's a very good, nice little spice that's in there. And this is a great one. So that's the second thing that they announced. The other one that they announced is that one right there. And so, I've heard people joke around with
I'm
different
getting
names
this.
about it. But you get three, and they're all Figurado, just like the Chef Special is, but you get three of each of the blends in this. But what you get also is you get a coin, or a numbered coin that comes in that box. And I want to say it's about $150 for a box for that. So, you're paying for the cigars, you're paying for the box, you're paying for the coin and all of that, but it's limited in quantities.
162.
Yeah. So 162. So 160 there. It'll be interesting. That one's going to be for more of the people that just want to collect cigars and collect something that, get the coin. This is going to be something that all of the Lazona Palooza guys and gals that are out there are going to jump on this. Yep, they're going to buy it. They're going to go, okay, I get a numbered coin. I get the box. I get three delicious cigars, and it's $160. Take my money. And this is, something that is absolutely catered to those, the hashtag Espinosa everyday crowd.
Absolutely. And I'm an Espinosa every gay. Jesus. I'm an
I'll bite my
Espinosa.
tongue on that one. I'll keep quiet for you.
I'm an Espinosa everyday guy myself. I would buy this just for the presentation. I love the flag in the background, the color. I think they did a great job. $162 for 9 of these, I think, is a really good deal. It's a limited release.
Yep.
I will say, I have to hand it to Eric. What a great job he has done with the knuckle sandwich. Hands down, what, a year ago it was, no, 2 years ago it was a year ago it was released.
A year ago it was released.
Last year at TTS.
Yeah, and Guy was at PCA last year also.
Yeah, and this already is the most successful release, celebrity-wise, in the cigar world. As far as, I mean, my gosh, look at all the extensions that they're doing with it.
Well, and Guy is a cigar guy. He's
Big
not
time.
one that's a celebrity that said, hey, you know what, I kind of sort of like cigars, so can you just make something for me? No, he is out there. I can tell you that when Eric and Guy talked a number of years ago, Eric said, and this was an interview that I did with Eric, I think it was at TPE last year, when it had all just released. He said, I talked with Guy a number of years ago and said, it's not the time right now. It's not the right time to do it. And so they waited a little bit on it, and then they released it. But part of the arrangement, agreement, I'm not going to say contractual, but part of what was asked of Guy Fieri was that he make himself available to go around and represent the cigars, be there, be the face of them, introduce people to them, and be on the road, so that it wasn't just a name attached to a cigar. And it has been very successful for Espinosa and done very, very well. The one thing I don't care for about the packaging and the color scheme is they put the black footband on the Habano and the red footband on the Maduro. I would switch those two, just like how you have the Connecticut with that gold band. I would make them all match, and that's a very minor thing. To me, it seems backwards, but again, that's just a preference thing.
You know what? I would 100% agree with you on that. I didn't even pick up on that. I would agree with you on that. Now, to move on to I know somebody that's another friend of both of ours over there at Big Sky, as well as a sponsor of the show here. Love Big Sky, Brandon Marsh. They are releasing and actually closing out their core line series with the release of the Blackfoot.
Yes.
Now, for anybody that doesn't know who Big Sky is, Big Sky's core line series is a fishing series. What I mean by that is it's it's lakes and rivers inside of Montana. and that is where they get their start from. They've later released out to the Cryptid, as well as they've done the Fly Tackle box and everything else.
They've got El Profesor, which is a great quick smoke. They have things that are deviations from the Minnow. They've got the chocolate Minnow that, that was a limited release. And Brandon's a good guy. Jess is a great guy also. And I got to know them both when they had pretty much just started out. And they sent me some to check out. And I fell in love with the brand. I fell in love with what they're doing. Many people don't know, and I know Brandon says this when he probably said it when he was on with you. And he says it in a lot of interviews that Montana was a huge cigar producing state decades ago. And their goal was to bring cigars back to Montana. And, whether it's the Yellowstone or the Madison or the Bighorn or whatever it is that they have out there in their core line, they are all absolutely delicious cigars. I love the Madison. They've got a couple different Habanos, but the Madison for me is one that I absolutely just go back to over and over again. But this one I'm looking forward to because it does close out their core line, but it does something that's a little bit different than they have in the Bighorn in terms of blend and richness and things like that.
Absolutely. And I think, if you go into like an auto dealership, you see these little pamphlets all the time. I do think they have some of the best pictures for their cigar boxes. I mean, my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Like their presentation in here is, they really, really do a great job. And on top of it, I think they are also one of the best boutique brands for image that they're going for.
Yeah, they encompass an entire lifestyle with their brand and what they do. It's for the outdoorsman. It's for the fisher. It's for the guy that likes to go out and go hunting. It's for the outdoorsman. And you have a lot of that opportunity out there in Montana. And so, they embody it very, very well. And yeah, their pictures, their branding, what they do, all of it has been spot on. And they're a boutique brand that I would say has done very well since the beginning. They've bootstrapped it themselves. They've gone out and pounded the pavement. I mean, it was just within the last 8 months to a year that Brandon was able to go full time with Big Sky. So, they've done it intentionally every step of the process, but they've continually improved and made it better and better to the point where Brandon can have a full-time income from it. And yeah, Jess is absolutely still a part of it. He's got some other focuses right now in addition to Big Sky, but it's a great brand with two great guys behind it.
I agree. And you know what? Kevin threw out a movie quote. Kevin, am I right or wrong that this is a movie quote? I do not know what movie this is from, but I will say this. If anybody watching can tell me what movie this is from and Kevin verifies that it's correct, you'll get a... You know what? Yeah. We'll throw in to anybody that guesses the movie name correct, and anybody watching has until Sunday at midnight to guess. I will send you a Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust coffee mug if you can guess the movie that's from. Now, Kevin, don't put that up, but text me right now what that movie name is. So anybody watching.
I'm not a movie buff, so I couldn't even tell you.
I am a movie buff, and I'm having a hard time figuring out what that movie was from. But if anybody can figure it out the correct way without Googling it, then I won't be able to tell anyways, but I'll send you a Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. So put it here in the comments, and we'll reach out and make that happen for you and send it over. So we also have here another Crowd Heads new release. Now, you touched on this a little earlier, but go ahead and talk about it again. Why are you excited for this one?
So Las Calaveras is a line that they've done for a number of years now. I don't remember the exact year that it started. I want to say it was like 14 or 15 was the first year that they did it. And Las Calaveras is paying tribute to Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It's not a day of mourning. In fact, Miguel Shadell was on with on Deep Cuts Live with Antoine about a week ago, and talked about the backstory and all those different things. I like the blend, but again, it's a cigar that has a story behind it. and it changes each year. They revamp the blend every single year. But what they do on the band, if you've smoked one and didn't notice it, then the next time you go and get one, get this year's. I haven't checked it out yet. Again, looking forward to checking it out. But they put initials of people that have passed on that are of significance to the company. It may be a family member of somebody that's in the organization. It may be a musician. It may be a political figure, or not political, a public figure. It may be anybody that they feel is deserving of being memorialized. And from what Miguel said, I mean, they've done, as he said, Old Man Padron is on one. Carlos Fuente, Old Man Fuente, his initials are on another one. And so what they do is they put the initials. There's usually, I believe it's 4 each year, 4 sets of initials that are on the band, 2 on either side of the primary band, in just tribute to and honoring the life that was lived of that person.
Interesting. And they're regular pricing, which again, they're $13 to $15. Now, real quick here, what is the question about the movie? The question about the movie is this quote: "I would like to have visited Montana," is a quote from a very iconic movie. Now that I know the movie, I still would never have guessed it. But Danny, if you know the movie, please say it. And if you guess correctly, I will ship you out a Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust coffee mug.
Now I'm just going to guess. He says iconic movie, and then he's got like the Italian fingers. So I would guess it's some sort of Italian themed or influenced movie if I were to make a guess. Yeah, see, there you go. But Danny, shout out to you. Hope you're doing well. And Danny, I don't know if you're going to be at PCA, but if you are, I look forward to seeing you again.
So as we go down through here, dude, I'm loving this, man. This is just absolutely fantastic. You're unbelievable. I'm telling you, everybody, check out Tobacco News Media. You will absolutely find out all the insights that you need from everything.
Hunt for Red October. Great movie. Sean Connery.
All right. Danny Cook is the winner. Danny, please go on to Facebook Messenger, look up Ryan Miller, type in your name and your address, and I will get that out to you within the next couple of days. Thank you so much. Glad I finally get to give away some of this stuff.
There you go.
Now, let's see here. We talked about the Mills Diaz.
So that one right there, go back down just a little right there. So we'll touch on that one and the one to the left, even though we already touched on the Juarez. I'll do it again because they deserve it. But the Maria Lucia from Luciano Cigars, they're doing a line extension. So as opposed to just the one Vitola that they came out with, which was a box press, which is absolutely delicious, but they're adding new sizes to that line, and I'm really excited about it. I think they're doing their usual Super Toro with it. They're doing a bunch of ones. Yeah. Oh, yeah. TobaccoTalkMedia.com.
I'm sorry. I said Tobacco News.
No problem.
Tobacco Talk. It's a bookmark. I don't even type it in anymore.
But they're doing line extensions with this and adding different Vitolas into it and falling in line with what Luciano does. So I'm curious to see how that does. And there's a huge backstory to this cigar that I won't get into on the show, but I get into it when I did my review of the Maria Lucia, when I sat down with Luciano last year at PCA and talked with him about it. Very, very good cigar.
Yeah, I love the Maria Lucia, and I'm excited for it to be in the size. And what is it? Let's see here. Does he talk about box size or not? No.
I think further down, maybe.
No. But I do want to touch on this. This isn't necessarily PCA, but I do know that the 601 is one of your favorite lines from Espinosa. What is it? What is it? It's the 601 Black that you
601 Black. I love the 601 Black in the morning with a cup of coffee. It just hits the spot.
Oh,
It's
fantastic.
a good Connecticut cigar with a little bit of spice. Again, Eric doesn't really make a cigar that doesn't have spice except for the Espinosa Crema. But yeah, the addition of the 601 orange and yellow that they came out with back in springtime. It was after TPE that they talked about this one. And I actually have not tried either one of them yet. But 601, I like that whole line, whether it's the Oscuro Green Band, and I've got some of them in the Petite Corona size, which is incredible. And Kevin's going to hate me for that one because I know that he has looked for that, I believe, for the 601 green Oscuro in the Petite Corona size. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that. But yeah, they're coming out with stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, they used to have it was either a yellow or an orange years ago, and they just brought it back.
So, now, how quickly before we see these reviews? Because I know these have to be lined up pretty quick for you.
As soon as I get my hands on them, I'll be reviewing them. So I just have not. I came back from TPE, and I'm going to sound like a total jerk, but I came back with TPE with a lot of cigars to review, and yeah, I just have not ventured out and gotten those yet. So
now, I want to hear what's your take on the Buenaventura?
So Buenaventura, I had years ago, and they only had one blend, and so they're expanding now to a Maduro blend for PCA. It wasn't a wowie cigar for me, if I remember correctly, but it wasn't terrible. So I'm curious to see how this one is, because from the press release and everything, it sounds like they've spent quite a bit of time working on this one to make sure they get it right. And it took a number of years before they were ready to release it. So they're releasing it at PCA. And so this is another brand that I'm going to go by and pop in there, the Curavari booth, and say, hey, and see if I can get them on camera and talk for a little bit about what they've got going on with this one.
And this is another reason why I will try this one. $5.50 to $9. It is worth the try. Price wise, it is absolutely worth the try. Tim, how often? Oh, here's a great question. Tim, since you just started talking about reviews, or not started talking about, but since you just mentioned them, how often do you actually enjoy cigars without reviews? But let me elaborate on that.
Okay.
What is Tim's non-review cigar process?
Sit down, light it up, sit in my recliner back behind me here in my man cave studio, and watch a movie, watch some TV, sitting out in the yard, especially in the springtime or the early fall when it's nice out. But Bruce, to answer your question specifically, I enjoy a cigar just about every day. And many days it's multiple cigars without reviewing them. It can be demanding and exhausting to only smoke cigars and review them, because there's a different level of energy you have to pay attention to a cigar, yes, to think through the flavor notes, to process it, to be able to alliterate it in a way that makes sense for the viewers to understand what you're trying to convey. And one of the greatest compliments that I got, and I'll shout it back out to Kevin here, is, when I was, I believe, still with Dad Smoking Cigars, he said, you have a way of describing a cigar where I don't even have to watch your video. I just have to listen, and I can exactly picture and taste what you're explaining. And so there's a different level of energy that goes into reviewing a cigar. So I intentionally, most every single day, enjoy at least one cigar, usually in the evening, and just relax. And many times I don't even pay attention to it. And there are times when, even not paying attention a whole lot to the cigar, where I'll sit back and I'll be like, oh, this one was really good, I should have reviewed it.
Now, I'm going to show you a cigar, and I'm sure you've had it at this point. One of my go-tos as of now has been the McAuliffe Black.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Dude, this is... McAuliffe knocked it out of the park.
So I was talking with some friends a couple nights ago, and I said, have you guys... I was going through some other cigars. I got sent some stuff by Villiger, by Dan Thompson sent me some blacks for review and just for me to enjoy. And I said, yeah, have you guys checked out the new McAuliffe Black? And they said, I'm not a big fan of McAuliffe, so you lost me there. And I said, well, let me tell you, the black you definitely need to pay attention to. The fact that they took 3.5 years with the help of Abe over at Smoke Inn, from the branding, the coloring, the packaging, and all that, and the intentionality that they took in making sure that they got it right. And they explained all of this when they did sort of the unveiling release of it live with Abe on his YouTube channel. And what they did in that blend, it is just amazing. It is not for the faint of heart. I would say that if you are someone that enjoys Espinosa and the Warhead line, then you will enjoy the McAuliffe Black, because it is on the stronger end. Don't smoke it on an empty stomach or first thing in the morning if you can't handle a little bit of vitamin N to get your day started, because you will definitely feel it. But it's not overpowering either. It's not all strength with no flavor and flavor profile and substance to it and body. It is literally everything encompassed in one absolutely delicious cigar.
No, I would agree. This has been my go-to daily cigar, and the price point is perfect for a daily cigar. I think it's like $8 for the Robusto or $7 when you buy a box. You could jump right over to smokin.com, by the way, if you're watching and have not had those, and pick yourself up a box. They are going incredibly fast.
Yep.
And then there was another thing that I wanted to talk to you about that I'm happy about, but I'm curious to know what you are, because I'm curious about the size and format. I was ecstatic when I read this on your site months ago.
Yeah, so they
What
released
is
this.
your opinion on Lancero?
I love Lancero. I'm a Lancero, Corona, Petite Corona. I love living in the like 45 to 50 ring gauge world.
Yes.
That is the sweet spot for me. I'm not a 56, 60, 70, 90. Now, would it be fun to check out the new 10 by 100 cigar that is being put out at PCA? Yeah, it would be fun to check that out.
Who's putting that out?
Oh, shoot. I knew you were going to ask me and I forgot. It's not Asylum, believe it.
Is it a new Woody release or a smaller Woody release?
It's shoot. I'm blank on it. It is it CLE? No, it's not CLE. I don't remember off the top of my head who it is that's putting it out, but it's a 10 by 100. But I live in the smaller Aganorsa. Thank you, Bruce. I live in the smaller ring gauge world.
Wow.
Oh, that's right. Is it a lunatic?
Is that the JFR lunatic?
I think it's a lunatic.
I didn't even hear about that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And so yeah, I live in the smaller ring gauge world. I love that world. I just think that you get a better appreciation for the wrapper leaf on a smaller ring gauge than you do once you get to the 52, 54s and bigger. Nothing wrong with them, because then you get to enjoy the binder and the fillers in it. But I love just the harmony of a smaller ring gauge when the flavor profiles are all blended together really, really well.
No, I agree. I'm a fan, and again, I was a cigarette smoker for 20 years, so maybe that lays into the smaller ring gauge, but I personally feel you get a much better flavor profile out of a Lancero, a Panatella, a Corona, anything under a 50. I'm right there with you. I will go up to about a 56. Every once in a while, I'll do a 60, but anything over that, I feel like I should be paid to smoke it.
Yeah, and if it's for a review and somebody sends it to me, or they go, hey, we'd really like you to check it out, or I have somebody that sends me a DM that says, I've smoked this, I enjoy it, I want your take on it. Okay, sure, I'll check it out. I have no problem checking out up to a 60, but that is not where I live. In fact, when I did the review on the West Tampa Tobacco Company with Rick Rodriguez's new one, the West Tampa Red, I have the Gigante size. It's a 660. It is a delicious cigar in the 660. I haven't tried it in the Toro or Robusto formats, but the Gigante of that West Tampa Red is absolutely on fire.
Yeah, I have not had that. Rick's supposed to send that over to me to try. I'm really looking forward to that. Now, I want to kind of talk to you about some other releases here. that I'm hoping that you know about as well, and an older company here,
Okay.
George Rico. I
Oh,
don't know
Gran
if you know
Habano.
him,
I
but
know him
he's
very well.
releasing George. The very first live guest I ever had on the show was
Okay.
George Rico.
Good guy.
He's releasing the Criollo number 7
Mm-hmm.
this year at PCA. What's your thoughts on him? Is it a rebrand? Is it a re-release? Is it a newer, updated cigar? What do we do expect?
I think it's just a continuation of and I think it's a Corojo number 4 is what the other one was.
Number
I think
5.
Number 5. Thank you. And I love that cigar. It's a longer format. It
was a Robusto.
Oh yes. Okay. So I'm mixing up 2 different ones, but yes. So I like what George puts out. George and I have known each other, not in some, crazy, I don't talk to him as much as I do many of the other brands. But I've talked to them and known him for the last few years. And I love what he's putting out. I did not get a chance to go by and talk to him at TPE with the Anniversario that he put out, the 10-year, that I hear has just been an amazing cigar. So I'm hoping to get my hands on that at PCA. But with this new Corojo, I like that I like his other Corojo, the number 5, because I like that it's got just enough of that Corojo tang in there. It's not too much to where it's like a Candela, grassy tang, but there's just enough of like a tartness tang that's in his Corojo that I'm really looking forward to checking that one out.
I'm looking forward to that because I'm a big fan of the number 5. I think he has made his brand off of it. It's one of his core cigars, and I'm very excited to see how much he pays tribute to the 5 with the 7. Now, a brand that I have never heard of, maybe you have, Casa de Gili, Casadagli.
Oh, you sure it's not Casadaglia?
Casadaglia. I've never heard of them. I told you I suck at pronouncing shit.
Yeah, so Casadaglia has been around for a number of years. They actually have gotten some rave reviews. I have not reviewed any of their stuff, just because I haven't picked it up or been around it. But I hear good stuff. I hear a lot of good stuff actually about the Casadaglia lines.
And then let me see here. Stop sharing. What about what is your take on the PCA exclusives? And let me expand on that.
Sure.
Do you think that the PCA exclusives are coming like the TAA releases, where they're just reiterations or a new line extension? Like, at what point in time does it become boring for a PCA release?
Well, I'll answer it this way. Steve Saka is very good at doing PCA exclusives that people run to and flock to, like it is the only water in 100 miles around them. And I like the idea of the PCA exclusives because it does a couple different things. One, it lets the media know that they're releasing something that is going to be limited. But 2, it allows the brick and mortars, the shop owners, the online retailers, it gives them a little more incentive to order during the show so they can get what people are going to want. And it helps drive traffic and drive orders to them. So it's a very good, smart business model to do a PCA exclusive, like you would do, good comparison to a TAA, or some boutique brands are doing BCA exclusives. They did this year for the Boutique Cigar Association. So I'm not opposed to the PCA exclusives because it allows the brick and mortars to get something that isn't an everyday release, but it also allows the manufacturers to capture sales on something that they want out there, but they don't want to or don't have the availability to release it to everybody.
Sure. And CLE this year is doing a 3rd year in a row release for a PCA exclusive. What's your thoughts on CLE?
I love CLE.
Yeah.
I absolutely love CLE. I mean, Christians.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you like CLE or Aroa better?
that's a tough one.
I know it is.
Aroa is usually more on the darker side, so I tend to go more on the CLE side, only because I like the Corojo is very, very good. I love the CLE Corojo, and they've just put out some that hit my palate a little better than the Aroa stuff, but I really enjoy the Aroa stuff. Some of the limited stuff that Aroa has released the last couple of years, I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but have been very, very good. But I would say I gravitate more probably towards Christian side than I do the other side.
Now, okay, so I had heard that El Septimo is doing another ridiculous release. What did they do last year? It was like $100,000 lighter or something like that. That they're doing like a $10,000 ashtray this year.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was El Septimo or who it was, but yeah, they have found a really good way. I'll answer that in just a second for you, Bruce. Thank you for asking that. They have found a really good way to capitalize on branding themselves as premium. I mean, to somebody that's new in the cigar industry that maybe has never heard of Davidoff or Fuente, or any of the truly legacy or higher end brands, especially once you get to the Don Carlos and Eye of the Shark and all those other things. El Septimo has done a really good job of branding themselves and putting out premium cigars that, for the most part, can stand up to the price point that they offer. So to have something like that, where it's a crazy expensive, I think it was actually $1 million lighter that they had.
$5 million lighter, and they're trying to offer out 3 $10 million ashtray. That's freaking ridiculous.
I mean, at that point, you might as well. In fact, I think the lighter was diamond encrusted last year.
Nobody has that money but you, Tim, at the PCA.
Absolutely. And you know what? I bought it, and it sits here on my desk, and I never use it.
I would be afraid to spark it because I wouldn't want it to jump out of my hand. My God, how much of okay? I appreciate El Septimo. They have some good cigars. I think they're one of the brands that's a little overpriced for what their cigars are. That's my opinion.
Sure.
Not that they're bad. I think I wish now Colorado taxes are ridiculously high. Maybe that's what I'm speaking to.
Well, you don't beat California there on that one, brother.
That's very true. I wish they were a few dollars less. But I mean, come on, a $10 million ashtray. Like Schwarzenegger wouldn't even buy a $10 million ashtray. And I don't think there's a bigger cigar celebrity worth that kind of money to afford something like that than him.
But you know what it does? It gives buzz for their name to keep them around as being somebody that's premium level and high dollar value. And it's all marketing. It is a brilliant strategy to have their name be out there and have people buzzing about a way overpriced, ST DuPont can't, no pun intended, can't hold a candle to something that's that price, with their high quality and their high dollar value for their lighters and accessories. There we go, went dark again. I'll come back, I promise. There we go. Evidently my screensaver likes to shut off even though my screen's active. But it's all marketing. And that's the way that I look at it. It gets people to the booth, it gets people to take pictures of it, and it gets their name out there in the media and in articles. And at the end of the day, that's PR for them. And it continues the higher end category for them and where they want to be. I want to go back and I want to answer Bruce's question.
Go ahead.
So as far as having a regularly scheduled podcast or video reviews, Tobacco Talk Media, I have not been consistent about updating my weekly videos on that website, but my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cigar Show Tim, I put out at least 2, usually 3 videos a week, whether it's reviews on cigars or accessories. I've been getting quite a few accessories from a couple different brands within the last couple months. And so I put out a video about every other day, every 2 days. And so I'd love for you to go and check those out, but they're not currently kept up to date on Tobacco Talk Media. And the reason that Tobacco Talk Media was started was Because, and Kevin and I talked a lot about this a couple years ago before it even happened, was YouTube is privately owned and they can do what they want to do because they're privately owned. And I needed to have a place that I could back up where my videos are. And so I started putting all of them on there. They're automatically backed up to my Rumble video page. And so what I have done on my Tobacco Talk Media website is I have then pulled directly from Rumble as opposed to YouTube for the videos. So that way, if YouTube were to take it down, it still lives. But I have not kept that up. And it's been honestly probably about 3 to 6 months. Kevin, I'm sure, is shaking his finger and you know, how dare you not keep a website updated? And he's right. But yeah, so on my YouTube channel is where I put out videos almost every other day. My typical schedule is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is when I release new content. So yeah, I've got new videos. I've got stuff in the queue ready to release. One released today being Thursday. Another one's going to be tomorrow, another one Saturday, and then another one on Tuesday. So I've got quite a bit of content that I've pre-recorded and done so that it could be up there. So there's still content coming out, even though I'm at PCA where I'm not going to be able to put out a video, you know, on those scheduled days.
Awesome. And then there was one other thing here. Bruce, I was wrong. It's a $10 million ashtray. Now, Tim, please get a picture of that ashtray for us. And
yeah, I'll go by.
Please.
Yep.
Now, I have some questions here in the last 15. Thank you so much for coming out and doing this news show, dude. This was so much fun.
Yeah,
I loved going through your website and doing this with you, dude. We have to make this like a normal thing for sure. But I have some questions I'd like to ask you.
Sure.
These are Tim questions. What do most people misunderstand about you most?
Ooh. I'm a cut and dry guy. I'm a black and white guy. I'm a realist that goes off of fact. And I do not always, case in point, when I did the video of, do you not even care about your content? Why even bother putting up videos? I think the title of the video was Why Even Bother? I give my opinion, and it can come across as though I'm superior to others. And Kevin and I talked about it after I got some pushback from somebody who actually I've built a relationship with and have talked with, and things are good. We understand each other's point of view, but I can be misunderstood or misread as being superior or better than others in certain areas, like audio quality or video quality or the way that I produce things, because I have spent so many years around production, from event production to technical directing to a number of different things. I hold myself to a really high standard. It doesn't mean everybody else should be at my standard. That's not an expectation. That's not reality. But that is one thing where I have definitely learned in the last couple of years, especially since having my channel and outside of my channel, where my opinions can come across as I have my opinion, and you know, you don't measure up to it. And that's really not me in reality. Anybody that has talked with me for any length of time, like this one person did, he and I went back over Instant Messenger for, well over an hour. And once you get to know me better, I'm as down to earth and real as they come. I just have my opinions on things, just like everybody else does.
No, you are a humble guy, but the thing is, I think it comes off as, you know, your shit, like, you know, your stuff, and so, like,
I could see that.
You carry yourself with a sense of gravitas, full of knowledge when you talk. That's why I consult with. That's why I asked you about the TV. It's why I ask you about microphones, cameras.
Yep.
You know, I go to those that know more than me, and I think I know a decent amount. So this next question is fairly introspective, but I'm very curious about this one, because you wear a lot of hats. You're a dad, you work in marketing, you're a Boy Scout leader, you also are in the cigar world. So what is your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
So my biggest failure would probably be twofold. One, on the family side of things, was learning the hard way that hobbies can take over can't take over and shouldn't override what happens with the family. I mean, I even had a video when I talked about, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of doing this. I don't remember the title of the video back a year and a half, 2 years ago.
That was after the Dad's podcast.
Yes, it was after Dad Smoking Cigars.
Cigars.
And I just said, if at any point this starts to overtake my family and spending time with them, then I'll hang it up. If it comes to a matter of family over this, I will always choose family. I have a lot of different hats. So the biggest failure is learning that. But then on the professional side of things, I started, this was back, and it was during the big crash of 08, 09 in the housing market and everything. I got let go from the job that I was at, and I started my own event consulting and production direction company. And it did not go well. Part of it was the financial climate, but the other part of it was I realized how much I knew about the event industry and how much I didn't know about running it myself and getting the clientele base. I was able to do that well. I was able to market myself, but I was not successful at running that kind of a business. But it taught me a lot through that, and I'm grateful for that lesson learned the hard way. And so I would say that those were, from the personal side and the professional side, those were the two failures or biggest things that I've learned. And Bruce, real quick to answer your question, I've got 2 boys. I've got 2 sons that are 12 and just about 10.
And one of the biggest things that I've learned in my career is those that do not fail never actually succeed. Because it is only in failure, it is only in the opposite that you understand the opposite of what you're going through. So if you've never tasted failure in your own mind, then you've never actually known what it is to succeed.
Sure, absolutely.
So this is a 2-part.
Okay.
Because I know you've gotten both of these, and I'm very curious. What's the best compliment you've ever gotten in the cigar world? And what's the biggest insult you've ever gotten in the cigar world?
Ooh, biggest compliment. Gosh, there's going to be 2 of them. One of them is going to be from Kevin when he talked about my audio quality and video quality. And he said that there's nobody, and it was at that time, it may be different now, and I'm okay if it is, that there's nobody out there that has better audio in their cigar reviews than I do. And that was a really big, humbling compliment. Because
it was that made me reach out to you, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, well, there you go. No, that's fine. So that was one. But last year at PCA, I was able to meet William Cooper, Cigar Coop. And I walked up to him, and I don't fanboy really over anybody. I just don't. I could walk up to, John Padron. I could walk up to anybody, and they're a person just like I am. But introduced myself, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you know who I am. I review cigars." He goes, "Yeah, you're Cigar Show Tim." And I said, "Oh, you are familiar." He goes, "I got to tell you, I love what you do. I love the quality at which you put it out. And I love how you do it, because it is your own unique style, and it's needed in the industry." And from somebody like Coop, I took that as a huge compliment, because he has been around for so many years. I mean, back in the blog days. And so that was a really big compliment to me. And it was like, okay, again, it's not a validation of like, okay, now I know I belong, but it was like, okay, you're Coop and you said that about me. I'm going to take that with a lot of humility and be proud of what I put out, because people that I've never interacted with before, and I'd never talked with Coop before, watch what I do. And I did this for pretty much the entire time I've had my channel. I'm blessed to know a lot of the bigger names, and I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but I'm blessed to know a lot of the bigger names that have been around for a number of years, whether it's Kevin, whether it's Bob the Cigar Guy, whether it's Lee Mack, whether it's, a number of different people. And I call them friend, and they call me friend, and I'm blessed to know them and to have relationships with them where it's not just, hey, what cigars have you enjoyed lately, but it's real life. And that is just something that I will never take for granted. But it's also something that I know I have worked really hard to build those relationships.
Absolutely. And just to show Bruce really quickly, here's this man's absolutely beautiful family. There's his two boys, his wife, and there's Tim. You can see
Yep.
the shit eating grin on his face. He's super happy.
Yep. That was my niece's wedding 2.5 weeks ago.
So there you go, Bruce. That's his family.
They're the reason I work so hard.
Absolutely. And what is the biggest insult you've ever gotten?
Oh, biggest insult? I don't even know. Gosh, biggest insult?
Have you ever had a manufacturer come back and go, "You're full of shit"?
No, I never have. I fortunately, when I don't think a cigar is very good, in fact, a cigar video, and maybe the one that released today, sneak peek, the Villiger 1888. Villiger sends me some of the stuff that they're releasing for me to check out and review. I fortunately, I guess, with the style in which I present it, even when I don't like something, they've said, I appreciate the fact that you were honest instead of just giving us a positive review. And I tell every single company, brand, accessory, whatever it is that reaches out to me, look, I'm going to give you my honest take. If I think that it's not a good humidor, or it's not a good cigar, or it's not a good accessory, I'm going to tell my subscribers that, because they expect me to tell the truth. And so I always will.
Yes.
But I've never had a manufacturer that's come back and said, we never want to work with you again. You're a liar. We believe better in our product than what you said. And either I haven't come to tell me that, or, you know, they appreciate the transparency and the honesty. But you know, I guess one, you could consider it an insult. The person that I, you know, mentioned back a few minutes ago that he and I chatted for about an hour on great terms and all of that. You know, he really challenged me and said, you know, after this one series that you did, you know, your viewership went down. So how can you say that you're helping the community? How can you say that? And it wasn't so much in the sense of attacking me. I think he genuinely wanted to know my perspective of it. And that's really what it comes down to, is if we can listen to somebody, even if we don't agree with their perspective, but we can listen to them and at least respect their perspective, challenge them and get them to answer it, then you know what? We're winning, because it's not about putting people down. It's about wanting to understand them better. And people could take that as an insult. And yeah, I texted some people and said, oh, you know, they say that you don't make it as a cigar reviewer until, you know, somebody, you know, is against you and doesn't like what you do. And yeah, that's, you know, to a certain extent, a true statement. And I'll go back to, you know, a brother of mine, Ron Reel. He said, you know what, when you get your first negative comments, it's good, because it means people other than your family are watching what you do. Then, you know what, I believe that you're going to get the negativity, and you should expect that. And when you get it, you can't take it with a grain of salt and blow them off, because that's their opinion. But you also don't need to let that send you into a downward spiral of, I suck, I'm terrible, I'm quitting, I'm giving up. You know, and you just have to be able to handle yourself appropriately.
No, then I agree. And you know, sticking on this, I personally, when I was doing reviews, Bruce, I will tell you, yes, multiple times, because I always took the standpoint of, if I had nothing good to say about a cigar, I'm not going to post it, specifically because that might be somebody else's favorite cigar. So, Tim, what's your take on that?
I have never, not, sounds like a double negative, but I have never held back posting a review because I didn't like the cigar. You know, I am not a fan, and I've said it before, I am not a fan of the Punch Knuckle Buster Habano. Can't stand that cigar. I've tried it a couple different times. I just can't stand it. It's terrible. But I did a review. In fact, when I did my top 10 of 2020, I smoked that cigar while, you know, doing my recording of my top cigars for that year, and I even said, let's give it another try. And by the end, I said, nah, it's still not for me. But I've never held back posting a review because I was afraid I was going to bash somebody. And I don't ever bash anybody. At the end of all my videos, and even the beginning, I say it's, you know, this is from my palate and my perspective, but go and check it out for yourself. I should never be a voice in the industry, nor should anybody be a voice in the industry that says, you know what, this cigar is trash. Don't even touch the brand. Walk away from them. Don't give them your money. That's just not right, because you're affecting somebody's family and their livelihood. And there's somebody else out there that I'm sure enjoys a cigar. Otherwise, it wouldn't be selling.
No, I agree. And so, two-part question to end the show.
Sure.
What is the biggest myth that people think about what we do? and what is the most important lesson that you've learned doing this?
Biggest myth would be that we make tons of money and we can afford to do all of this because people pay for it. Oh, thank you, Bruce. Yeah, that is probably the biggest myth. Is you get into cigar reviewing because you just want free stuff and they pay you for it, and you have a side hustle and a side income. And it's completely the opposite. You just end up spending more money than you ever take in. And so that is probably the biggest myth. And another one right after that would be you get sent cigars, and because a company sends it to you, you have to talk positively about it. No, that's a myth. I'll tell it like it is. And there are some reviewers or content creators that have done that. Some of those channels don't exist anymore. Some of them for good reason. Some of them
they find out.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's probably the biggest myth that is out there about it. And I don't remember the second part of the question.
So the second question is, what is the most important thing you've learned doing the cigar world?
Probably the biggest thing I've learned is how much of an old school face-to-face handshake agreement industry this is with building relationships. But more so than that, I did not fully realize until I got into creating content, and even more so after Dad Smoking Cigars, when I had my own channel, when I launched that, this really is the greatest equalizer industry. You can go and sit in a cigar lounge, and I love going to a cigar lounge when I get the chance to. I'm going to have this here, so I hardly ever go to one. I don't go wearing a Cigar Show Tim hat or shirt or any of those things. I go in as Tim Long. And most people will never know who I am. My channel is that small, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. But I can sit next to, and I have sat next to people, in cigar lounges that I don't see what they pull up in, but I'm leaving at the same time as them or whatever it is. And they're getting into, a 6-figure car, and I'm getting into my, simple family car. And
McLaren.
Yeah, a McLaren. I've seen Maseratis. I've seen, AMGs. I've seen all sorts of different things.
Well, that's
Ferraris.
what you drive, though.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. But it's the greatest equalizer. And that's the thing that I didn't fully understand, is you can sit next to somebody that is a billionaire and never know it while you're smoking cigars. And likewise, you can sit next to somebody that other people may think is a lower job than what you do. And you're all on the same playing field.
No, and I completely agree. Tim, thank you so much for coming on. We've got to figure out a way to work in. I would love to figure out a way to work in a weekly news segment. Everybody watching commented, loved it. I would love for that. We should make that happen in some fashion. But I'm going to give you the closure of the show here. Tell everybody where to find you. Tell everybody where to watch your PCA coverage, because I expect everybody watching tonight will definitely be following you from now. So I'll give you the closing here of the show. Why watch you?
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it first, Ryan, for you allowing me to come on and have this fun conversation. That's exactly what it was. It was a fun conversation, just talking about PCA and what's coming up. But if you want to follow my cigar journey, and that's the way I label it, it's my cigar journey, and you get to just experience, from my perspective, what a cigar is like. YouTube.com/Cigar Show Tim is where all of my video content is published, and I'm found everywhere on social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Everywhere is at Cigar Show Tim. If you want to follow Tobacco Talk Media, for Instagram, it's Tobacco Talk Media. For Twitter, because they have that whole, number of letter limitation, it's Tobacco Talk News. But I'm going to be putting PCA coverage, whether it's a lot of it's going to go through Instagram for PCA while I'm there, and then all of the interviews obviously will be on my YouTube channel. But Tobacco Talk Media is a Facebook page as well. So facebook.com/Tobacco Talk Media is where you can find me. I'd love for you to, leave some comments on videos, whatever it may be, and let me know if there's something you want me to check out. I love communicating in the comments and continuing the conversation is how I always word it, because it just brings the community together, and I love being a part of the community. I'm just a guy that built a studio that smokes cigars that people just find interesting enough to watch. With the channel as it's grown, I haven't exploded like other channels have, but I've never been about the numbers. I've been about the content and my cigar journey, and I will always be that way. But I say it at the end of every single one of my videos. Enjoy your cigar journey. I'm Cigar Show Tim. As always, I'll see you.
Absolutely. And this has been another live episode of Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here in the Smokin' Studios, deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. Thank you to everybody watching. And until we see you all again, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have an absolutely great rest of your week. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
See you guys.